Today we are making probably the best sandwich bread that I've ever had in my whole 50 years. And it's so easy, you can do this too, and I'm going to show you how today. So whether you're using a stand mixer or mixing this by hand, I like to warm up the bowl that I'm mixing my dough in. It helps keep the temperature of the water that we're going to start with, right? So I just filled my bowl up with some warm water, then measured out the water for this recipe. All the measurements for today's recipe, there's a printout down in the description box below. You can print this out at home. So once I measure out my water, I dump the water in the bowl and I add my sugar and I just give that a stir. And then I'm going to take the temperature of my water because I don't want to use too hot water, right? I like it to be about 105. Right now it's a little bit warm at 106. Have you ever made bread and it didn't really rise too much? It might have been because your water was too hot. So I got to cool it off just a little bit. And I come in right below 105. I'm going to go ahead and add my yeast. I'm using the Bella Rise instant yeast. You can get this at places like Walmart, Sam's Club. Sam's Club is where we get it. I'm going to add my yeast and stir that in. And we're going to let this sit for about 5 minutes. You want it to go ahead and get frothy like what you see in the bowl right now. So before I start mixing anything, I'm going to add my oil. Today I'm using avocado oil. You could use olive oil. You could use vegetable oil. I've even done it with tallow, but avocado oil seems to be my favorite for this sandwich bread. Now we're going to start mixing in the flour, and we're going to do that 1 cup at a time. Just mixing 1 cup at a time. I have this sped up so we're not here all day and you can go ahead and start making some bread, right? We're going to be adding a total of 4 cups of flour to this. And the dough's going to be a little bit sticky, a little bit wet. And you're going to be tempted to add more flour to it. But I'm going to ask you not to, because too much flour to this sandwich bread dough will make your bread sort of dry and tough. So after I add my 3rd cup of flour in, I'm going to go ahead and add my salt. Let that start mixing in. You're going to see this start coming together and pulling the dough away from the sides of the bowl. If you're mixing by hand, it should look like this too, right? You're just mixing it by hand. There's my 4th cup of flour. And you're going to see it starting to look a little shaggy. It's going to start pulling all together. And again, the dough is going to be sticky. That's okay. It's starting to pull everything from the sides. And right about here is where I'm going to stop it. And my dough looks a little chunky and a little wet, right? I'm going to go ahead and pull it off to the side, remove the dough from the hook. And I'm not going to do anything else to this dough. I'm going to cover it. And we're going to set the timer for 15 minutes. So I have these little timers I got off of Amazon because our power goes out all the time. So there's my dough. It has risen slightly, right? It looks a little puffy. So I'm going to add a little bit of flour to my countertop. Not a lot. I'm not trying to mix in a lot of flour to this bread dough. Just enough flour on the table to keep it from sticking to my countertop. And we're going to go ahead and just knead this by hand for 3 or 4 minutes. It's going to go from being a little bit tacky on your hands to nice and smooth and soft and not sticky anymore. And that just takes a few minutes just to knead that by hand. Now this bread dough is so versatile. Today I'm splitting this dough into 4 parts. We're having footlong subs for supper. You could divide it into 8 parts and make 8 6-inch sub rolls, right? You could divide it even further and make smaller rolls from this bread dough. If you're aiming for a foot-long sub, divide the dough into fours like I'm doing here. And I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not measuring anything out. And I usually have a sub roll that's smaller than the rest, or two that are sort of my size and two that are bigger for Harlan, right? But I'm just eyeballing it. Once you divide it, you're going to go ahead and knead it just a second more and roll it into a ball. Now I still have a little bit of flour on my countertop. I'm going to spread that out and I'm going to set these dough balls right on my countertop. I see one's bigger than the other. I'm going to try to fix that. I aim to get them all the same size. It's really hard to do unless you actually measure it right on a scale. But these are pretty close. There's my 4 dough balls. We're going to cover it with a towel again. I like using 2 towels because I have the AC on. I want to keep this nice and warm. Again, we're going to set the timer for 15 minutes. So at 15 minutes, we're going to uncover them and look, they've risen again. Now I'm going to work with 1 dough ball at a time. And I'm going to roll these dough balls out into a squarish shape. I try to get a square. But they're about 7 or 8 inches wide, right? And as you're rolling it, when you first start rolling it, you're going to see it's going to want to pull back in. But as you work with the dough, it starts to loosen up and becomes more workable. So once you get your squarish shape, you're going to roll it into like a log shape. Real nice and tight. I like to roll my ends over and pinch them closed, and then go right along the seam and pinch that closed as well. Then I'm going to roll it out even longer. I'm going for foot-long subs today, so about 12 inches. We're going to place each one of these on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. So I'll just bring you along as I roll out the other ones. Even though it looks like I'm moving really fast, I have the video sped up. I'm really just taking my time. I used to think that when I made bread, I had to just hurry through the whole process. And as I've been making bread, I've just realized it just turns out so much better when you just have fun with it and take your time. So I'm rolling these out. Can you see Dolly? She came behind me. She thinks she's going to get something to eat. So as you're putting them on the parchment paper, see the spacing? You're going to want to make sure that they're spaced out because these will rise even more in the oven. And I think they form a much nicer crust if they're not touching each other as they rise up. So here's my last one. Believe it or not, the house is already starting to smell pretty amazing just working with the dough. And as much as I've fallen in love with making bread, I've been really good in the last 2.5 months. I've only made bread a handful of times. But I made these sandwich rolls the other day and I did not share them with my parents. Doesn't that sound horrible? And they could smell them baking. So this morning, my mom was like, "Are you making bread anytime soon?" The everything bagel seasoning smelled so good. So, of course, I'm going to make some more today and share these with my parents. At this point, once you have them all rolled out and put on your baking sheet lined with parchment paper, you're going to just want to brush them with water. And this is going to give the crust a nice chewy bite, right? These aren't crusty rolls. They're going to have sort of a chewy little bite on the outside crust. Set your timer for 15 minutes. And at this point, as soon as you set your timer, go ahead and start warming up your oven. you're going to want to set it at 375 and let that be warming up in the 15 minutes, right? And when your timer goes off, carefully pull that towel back and brush them again with water or egg wash. I like using an egg wash. We have an abundance of eggs. So this is 1 egg yolk with a few drops of water just to dilute it so it spreads easier. And we're going to brush these loaves again. Now, as it's brushed and it's super duper wet, right? That's when you can add your little toppings. The everything bagel seasoning sounded so good to me, so we're going to do all 4 of them that way today. But I've used sesame seeds, poppy seeds, sea salt, Italian seasoning, Parmesan cheese. You could just cook them just plain like this, right? But I do think it really helps the crust to brush them this second time. And I'm realizing I'm running low on my everything bagel seasoning. I'm going to have to get some more at the store. But I've been really good not eating as much bread in the last couple months. I think it has made a little bit of difference, but it's so hard, especially when you make bread this good. It is just, it's so good. All right, once you get your last roll brushed and topped or not topped, these are going to go in the oven. Now, sometimes I do this and sometimes I don't, but I think it makes it look so pretty. I'm going to go through and score the tops of these bread loaves. This is just a little razor blade, just making a few little cuts on the tops of the bread. You don't really have to do that. Now I'm going to put them in my hot oven, and depending on your oven, right? All the ovens are different. You're going to want to cook these anywhere between 18 and 22 minutes. I found at 22 minutes with my oven, they come out looking like this, and they are perfect. As soon as they come out, you're going to want to take them off that baking sheet, though, and put them on a cooling rack. So I just transfer them over like this, and then it's torture waiting until supper time because I'm going to tell you, the house smells amazing. Look at that. Aren't they beautiful? Like artesian looking, like I went to a bakery and bought them or something, right? You're going to impress your family so much with these rolls. Now, these are at least a foot long. They have a super, super soft center. The crust is not hard and crusty and hard to bite through, but it's got that little chewy bite to it, right? It's just perfect. Now, if you make this recipe, I'd love to hear what you think about it. You can leave a comment down below and share your pictures over on Creative Crew. I'd love to see how your bread turns out. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see y'all really soon. Bye.